Next month is April, and you know what that means. It means that it's time for one of my absolute favorite readathons of the year, and that is the Magical Readathon, which, if you don't know anything about the Magical Readathon, one, where have you been? But two, don't worry, there's still enough time. I'm going to leave in the description bar below the link to G's announcement video for this year's our readathon. Now, for just a quick summary, the Magical Readathon is a Harry Potter themed readathon, and it takes place twice in the year. Ideally, there's a third one that takes place closer to December if you want to get extra credit, but that's not the main focus. The main focus are the two main readathons that take place, which are all branded to take their inspiration from the two main magical exams that take place in the Harry Potter in the wizarding world, which is the OWLS and the Newt. And in April, we do the first set of exams, which is the OWLS, and based on the number of books you read, which equates to the number of subjects you pass, it determines exactly what Newt you can take, and the ultimate goal is to see which magical career you want to fit in, which was what I did last year. I had a magical career in mind, and I was just like, okay, these are the subjects I want to pass for it, and that was what I did. But this year, I want to do things a little bit differently because G added a couple of new careers, and I just am in awe and I'm floored. Like, of course, there's my oldie but goodie curse breaker, which is what I always go for, or aura. Then there's the broom maker, there's the wand maker, and now there's a spell maker, there's a culinary sorcerer, there's a journalist or writer, there's a mage of visual art, there's a librarian, there's a trader of magical tomes, there's a metal charmer. Like, I want to be all of these careers. I've not made up my mind because I want everything. So what I am doing instead, so that by the time it's time for the Newt, I would have narrowed down my choice to one career. What I'm doing is I want to actually complete all 12 subjects of the OWLS so that I can mix and match and choose whichever subject I want to take when it's time for the Newt, because that's kind of how it works. So yes, I am planning on reading at the very least 12 books in April, because for those that don't know, the Magical Readathon, the OWLS kicking in April 1st all the way to April 30th. So I have 30 days and I want to read at least 12 books. Considering the fact that if this was like last year when I was averaging 12-15 books a month, I would have been like easy peasy. But you all know how my reading has been since the start of this year, so pray for me. Anyway, I've got my phone, I've got all the subjects, all 12 of them. So let me take you through each subject and the book I am reading for them. So the very first subject is Ancient Runes, and for Ancient Runes, the rune we're looking at is the Heart rune. And for the Heart rune, the prompt says we are to read a book with heart on the cover or in the title, and the book I'm choosing for that is Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. This is going to be my first Shannon Maguire book. I've not read any of her books, but I got this book for Christmas 2 years ago from the amazing Jake over at Jake Does Books. I've wanted to read this ever since, and I never got around to reading it because I kept waiting to complete the rest of the series before I started reading the books. But I think the Magical Readathon has spoken. I'm going to be reading Every Heart a Doorway for Ancient Runes, and it's small, it's cute, it's definitely a book I'll be able to finish in April, all fingers being equal, because I have some big books on this list. So yay me for the short books on my list. And what is this book about? Well, it's all about these kids that are basically taken into a fantasy world and then are sent back to the real world, and the problem has always been how these kids will integrate into the real world. And they are called the Wayward Children. There's a wayward house where they're taken to basically help them deal with all the trauma and process it and basically acclimatize back to society. So I've always liked stories about people going into different worlds, but usually for every story like that, there's no counter story about how exactly do these people acclimatize back into society when they return. And the Wayward Children series, starting with Every Heart a Doorway, aims to answer that question, and I cannot wait to read it. So the second subject is Arithmancy, and it's all about magical qualities of number 2, which is balance/opposite. And the prompt for it says we are to read something outside our favorite genre. Now, everybody knows my favorite genre is almost almost always going to be fantasy. It's always fantasy. My second favorite is contemporary, and I wanted to choose something outside of that, so I went with a genre I love but I've not read enough of lately. Yeah, science fiction, and I am going with Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Moore. This is more of a chimera book because it does have fantasy elements, but because it takes place in space, I'm going to be classifying it, I'm going to categorizing it under science fiction, and the reason why I'm picking it up. This book is all about necromancers in space. You have Gideon the Ninth, who has been a servant for a particular house, and when she decides to make her escape and run away, she's bound by a promise to the head of her house, the current head of her house, Arrow, and basically Arrow needs her to compete in some house tournament thingy that will make them eternal rulers, etc, etc, etc. But basically Gideon's hands are tied. She has to help Arrow win the shit. There's a murder mystery tossed in. I wanted to read this. It was making all the wave last year until some drama came up with the writer, but I've been wanting to read it, and I intend to read it for the Magical Readathon. So Gideon the Night by Tamsin Moore. The next subject is astronomy, and this is all about night classes. So the prompt says we are to read majority of a book when it's dark outside, and I think that for me it will make a lot of sense for me to just pick an audiobook for this prompt, just because it will totally fit. And the other book I'm picking for this is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Arrow. The only thing I know about this book is that this book is all about traveling into different worlds using books. So it's basically a love story to other worlds, a love story to fantasy, and a love story to books, and the fact that we all know that reading a good book transports us into that world and into that life. And I just want to say exactly how it's executed. I've heard some great things, some not so great things about the book, but I want to read it to say exactly where I fall in that divide. So The 10,000 Doors of January is the book I am going to be choosing and reading for the astronomy prompt. Next we have Care of Magical Creatures, and the creature we are going to be tested on in the exams is hippogriffs, and so we are to read a book with a creature that has a beak on its cover, and for that I'm going with Stormcrow by Colleen Josephson. In this book we basically are thrust into a kingdom. They've been recently conquered by a neighboring kingdom that has basically killed all their crows and destroyed all their crows' eggs, and there is this princess, the princess of the conquered kingdom. Her dream has always been to be a crow rider, and as such this destruction, this violation tosses her into a serious state of depression. Her older sister is trying to run the kingdom, trying to keep everybody afloat, and to help further this agenda, she basically betroths her depressed sister to the son, the prince of the conquering kingdom, which of course, as is expected, her sister is rightfully pissed. But when the two sisters stumble on a crow's egg in the midst of, I don't know, I think it's a robbery or something, basically they kind of realize that they have the seeds, the beginning of a rebellion. And I love that. I am curious. I'm like, okay, what about the neighboring conquering prince? Like, she's planning on overthrowing his kingdom and possibly, I don't know, maybe murdering his father. So all these things are things that I consider, but I've heard such great things about this, and the second book of this series is already out, so I want to read this book to see if I would like it well enough to get the sequel. But yeah, Stormcrow by Colleen Josephson will fit my Care of Magical Creatures examination on hippogriffs to a T. Then we have charms, and the charm we're going to be tested on in the exams is Lumos Maxima. As such, we're to read a book with a white cover, and I'm going to be going with, yes, A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahara Mafi. This is mostly white, as you can see. This follows the event after 9/11, whereby you have a Muslim girl living in the United States, and as such is dealing with the Islamophobia that is on the rise after the attack, and she's trying to get into break dancing and trying to find that a form of expression in dance, and in so doing falls in love with a football player, the star quarterback, the All-American boy, and the two of them have to fight against the racial prejudice that arises at the time as a result of their their relationship. Now, I've never read any Tara Murphy book. In fact, I thought I was going to first read Shatter Me before I read this, but I don't have Shatter Me yet, but I do have a very large expanse of sea, and I want to read it for the charms examination for the magical readathon. So yeah, this will be the very first Tara Murphy book I read, after which I will then move on to the Shatter Me series. And then there's Defense Against the Dark Heart, and the creature we're going to be tackling in this year's examinations are Grindylows. As well as such, we are to read a book that is set by the sea or the coast, and the book I'm choosing for that is Don't Date Rosa Santos by Nina Moreno. In this, we have Rosa, who basically all our relationships have ended not so well. As such, the word around the seaport town where she is that she's cursed, you know, so dating her will not end well. But then she falls for Alex, whose family basically owns the marina, and Alex is a bad boy with tattoos, etc, etc. And it's just a case of basically Rosa's heart is being torn either way. She doesn't know if she wants to stay in that coastal town or go to the city for education. What's she going to do with Alex, etc, etc. I wanted to read it, and it's definitely a very coastal story, so I think it fits the prompt for, you know, Defense Against the Dark Arts. So I'm going to be reading it for that. The next subject is divination, and the topic we're being tested on is the third eye. As such, we're to assign numbers to our TBR and use a random number generator to pick our read. I did that, and the book that I chose, luckily enough, is Traitor's Kiss by Erin Beatty. I say luckily because the number could have fallen on like the second book in the series or the third book in the series, in which case I'll be fucked because I have to read all the previous books before I can read that. So yay me. But anyway, it's Traitor's Kiss by Erin Beatty. In this, we follow a young girl, Sage, who is an inappropriate girl. As such, she was told that she can never get married, and so she's apprenticed to a matchmaker. But even with that, she still rebels against that, because instead of just setting up these young women with soldiers, she starts to spy on their relationship. And she's such a good spy that a soldier basically does employ her to become a spy, to spy on the enemy, and as such she discovers secrets she should have not discovered. So like, it's an inappropriate girl that becomes a spy and rebels against getting married, and just totally something I would love to read. And my very good friend Sarah over at Novel Serendipity swears by this book, swears by this series. In fact, I bought this series because she was like, Noria, buy the series, you would love Sage, she's your type of girl. So I'm actually pretty happy that the random number generator fell on this book, so I get the chance to finally start the series. The next subject is ebology, and we're going to be tested on Mimbula's Mimbletonia, which, oh my god, it's so cute. I remember that's the plant Neville brought back, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, so and the prompt is we're to read a book with the titles that starts with an M, and the book I'm choosing for that is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I've been wanting to read this ever since my very good friend Mila sent me the entire trilogy as a gift last year, and I've not gotten the chance to read it, but this is finally, yeah, this is the universe saying that get it off your, start reading it, Noria, start reading it. The Magicians TV show is ending, and with the way they ended season 4, I've been watching season 5, but I'm still heartbroken with the way they ended season 4. But anyway, it's my chance to finally read the book. In this is basically Hogwarts, but for more mature readers. So they're in graduate school, or that they start in high school, go to university, etc, etc, but they're way older. The magic in this book comes from a lot of pain, and we're basically following our lead protagonist Quentin and his friends as they learn that very crucial truth that magic cannot solve all their problems. As a matter of fact, it likes to create a lot of problems, especially when there's a mythical magical land called Fillory involved. So yeah, it starts with an M, and I cannot wait to read it. The next subject is Muggle Studies, and we're to read a book from a perspective of a Muggle, aka a contemporary novel. And because in Magical Readathon you cannot combine subject, so you have to pick an individual book per subject, and the book I'm choosing for Muggle Studies is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I have said it that this is a hype book I want to read this year, and I'm very happy that I was able to sneak it onto my Magical Readathon TBR. In this, we follow two characters who are mortal enemies of each other. You all know how much I love the hate to lovers, the enemies to lovers trope, the hates to love trope, and in this we have two characters who hate each other, and when they are up for the exact same promotion, they are basically at each other's throat. But in all that that anger, in all that enmity, they discover that there's actually sexual attraction and desire and love running underneath it all, and I cannot wait to see how it's all resolved. But yeah, the 18 game by Sally Thorne. Okay, so I skipped a subject, and that is history of magic, and the topic we will be tested on is witch hunts. As well as such, we are to read a book featuring witches or wizards, and the book I'm choosing for that is Carry On. Yes, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, which is basically kind of like an Harry Potter fan fiction, except in this case the chosen one, aka the Harry in this book, ends up with his roommate is undead, cannot stand his guts, but it turns out that he actually likes him roommate, which basically gives us the Harry Draco team up and pairing that we all so totally wanted and never got. Yes, I used to be a huge Drarry fan, so this is giving me life and I cannot wait to read it. I can't wait to meet Simon Snow, I can't wait to meet Baz, I can't wait to read this book so that I can eventually get on to Wayward Son, which I still haven't bought because I still haven't read Carry On, and I want to see if I would love this book first. So yeah, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. The next subject is potions, and the potion we're looking at is Shrinking Solution. As such, we're to read a book that is under 150 pages, and the book I'm choosing to read is Odd Spirits by S.T. Gibson. This book is at about 70 pages, so definitely well under 150. Short books, small books like this totally are helping my TBR. But anyway, like I said, it's 70 pages, which is way less than 150. In this, we have a couple. The husband is a ceremonial magician, the wife is a chaos witch. Their relationship should not work, but not only does it work, but it's thriving. They are happily married, but when a malevolent spirit takes up residence in their home, they have to basically put aside their differences to kick the spirit out because it's causing troubles for their marriage, troubles that should not be, that should not exist. Speaking of B, my very good friend B over at Bewitched Shelves, they read this book, they loved it, they were the reason why I picked it up, and I picked it up like early last year and I never got to the chance to read in it. So I'm happy that it's making its way to my magical Readathon TBR so I can get to it. And finally, there's the last subject, which is Transfiguration, and what we're looking at, the topic we're looking at for the exams is Animagus. So we're to read a book or a series that includes shape-shifting, and the book I'm choosing for that is, yes, Parry of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I have zero clue what this book is about, like none. I have not read the synopsis. I've avoided all spoilers because I want to go into this book absolutely blind, but I did see on Samantha Shannon's on our Tumblr page that this book has shapeshifters, so that's the reason why I picked it. That is all I need to know, that there's shapeshifters in this book. Oh, and I heard that there's a dragon and there's a queer queen, so yeah, that's all I need to know about this book. But I finally am getting it. Like, everybody I know read this book last year. Some people loved it, most of them loved it. It's a big book, but most people loved it, and I cannot wait to dive into it in April for the magical readathon. So yay! Parry of the Orange Tree. So those are the 12 subjects and the 12 books I'm going to be reading for my OWLS. Let me know if you're going to be participating in the OWLS. Let me know if you've chosen the career already. Drop them down in the comments down below. If you like this video, please do not forget to give it a big thumbs up. Check out my other videos. Subscribe if you want to, and if you do decide to subscribe, click on that notification bell so you can know the minute I have a new video go up. I make new videos every Sundays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and I'll see you soon. Until then, stay passionate, love books, love yourself. Bye.